Hello there, and welcome back to the SWTVC podcast, the audio home of the SWTVC crew and the ongoing push for the continued existence, expansion, and success of the heritage scale of Star Wars collecting. I'm Evan, or as you may know me on Instagram, Mile High Ground, and I am joined by my SWTVC teammates, Tyler, John, and Lewis. Today, we got some stuff to talk about. The Post-HasLab hangover is here and has manifested itself as an immense sense of gratitude to the community that rallied together and made this TVC HasLab another smashing success. We're 3 for 3. We're getting a complete crew of some of the community's recurring most wanted figures in one go and a dream ship for them all to live in. So thank you to the Hasbro team for making such an awesomely detailed item, all that fun stuff, our peers. But before we jump in to celebrate #GotTheGhost, let's just kind of go over some of the regular stuff we do on normal episodes together, guys. Mail call. A couple things have been arriving because, as we all know, there are a lot of things shipping and charging all around this time. It's been a very, very funneled together just glut of stuff. So let's go around. Lewis, have you gotten anything in the past week or two?
Yeah, so a couple of days ago I got the deluxe Sabine Renin, so love that figure, to be honest.
Are they allowed to do that?
Yeah, and that's what I say. It's a breath of fresh air to get something that's literally in hand while you're watching it. It's great. I mean, it's a fantastic figure. The accessories are amazing. It's just that helmet. Everyone knows the issue with the helmet. No point in keep going on about it. But I take that off, display it without it, or put it under her arm. You got the Loft Cat. It's an amazing figure. So yeah, I got that in. I need to play around with it a bit more. Actually, I haven't had a chance to sort of photograph her and whatnot yet, but looking forward to doing that. And then I got the Jabba's Goons, Jabba's Dinzens pack in as well, and I absolutely love that. I was looking forward to it. I saw it at Celebration, so I'd already seen it firsthand. But actually, just to get them out and crack them open, they are great figures. I mean, okay, Re-Easy's the repack, but the other three, it shows a lot, I think, for TVC in terms of what we now have available in the tooling library, when we can basically kit bash figures like this and get, rocker ankles, and, they've got everything. They've got everything they need. And I can't fault these figures at all. I think they're great.
That's Tessic having Cal Kestis's legs, and I think about the Tuskens that have, I think, Obi-Wan Kenobi Wandering Jedi legs, and a lot of the reuse from these new media figures to achieve a lot of these OT, greatest hits of what people have been asking for decades. I think that really speaks to why I don't always agree with folks that say, don't even do new media. It's like, no. It's about expanding the tooling library, guys.
Exactly.
The more we have, the more we can the more we can make. So.
Yeah, you got Cassian's legs in there as well, haven't you? I think on
yes, yeah. Is that who they use for
Tam
Velkin?
Dren, I think. Oh, yeah. Velkin. I'm not sure which ones they are now.
They both have at least the upper legs from Cassian, but only one of them has the lower legs.
Yeah.
What's your favorite? Does anyone stand out above the others in this set, or are they all kind of equally awesome?
I think they're all great. They've all got their own. Yeah, the detail on them. The likenesses on the face of the two skiff guards. Yeah, really great figures. What did occur to me, and I'm kind of kicking myself for not picking up more, because with Tessic, where he's got Cal Kestis' legs, I did think that would be quite great to actually take them off and build another Cal, with white trousers, because obviously
I was
with
thinking
Cal,
the same thing.
You've got those different outfits, haven't you? And you just think, why didn't I get more? Because it would have been perfect. But perhaps Hasbro will do it. Who knows?
Well, now John's going to buy another one so that he can kit bash a Cal with white pants because he loves white pants.
I love the white pants.
Exactly.
Yeah, John's not a customizer, but he is now.
I'm sure we'll see those pants again. They're nice all-purpose pants.
The more they start using Cal Kestis in other figures, the more it might give us the opportunity to create new Cals in different color Cals and different outfit Cals. It could be great. Little sideline customs.
I know that John doesn't like to customize figures, but I think he's going to learn how to boil and pop.
Yep.
This figure's going to pop. Those pants are going to pop. Yeah, that sounds wrong, actually, but
Oh man, my favorite thing about those Jabba's denizens, sorry, I keep wanting to call them Jabba's goons or whatever.
Yeah, I do.
Is never having to see the names Velkin Taziri, Tessic, or Tamdren Garen. I don't care how it's pronounced. I never have to see them again when we're doing March Madness tallying. So thank you.
speaking of seeing things we never thought we'd see, I do love seeing the stuntmen like head sculpts on these. That was interesting seeing Tame and Velkin. We hadn't seen their head sculpts until people started showing them on.
Straight up
online.
Looks like Trelolo Man. I'm just gonna say.
I do want to see.
They captured the likeness perfectly of the stuntman. I can't. His name. It's not coming to me at the moment.
That's Larry Holt.
Yes,
and he was Hans. He was Harrison Ford's stunt double and indoor as well. So you can put him in the indoor bunker.
I have him leaping through the door. Yeah. Oh well, now I want that. Good thing I bought an extra indoor bunker. Woo!
Perfect.
Tyler, do you get anything in this week? I know stateside we've gotten our blitzes from Walmart shipped in bags.
I don't think I got anything in this week. I've been trying to sort of actually make sure that I don't get charged anything in preparation for the go. So I've kind of been,
dude.
I've held off on the N1 and I've held off on the, remnant speeders, and I will get around to getting them for sure. But timing is everything. So
those are still available, as I've said to some people.
Of course.
But wait, we're going to talk about Blitz. You brought up Blitz. Let's talk about Blitz already.
I don't know, man. Do we really want to put more thought into the Clone Wars 20th beat that Hasbro and Lucasfilm didn't?
I got the bag. I got the bubble bag. I got 3 of them. Again, one carded, one to open, one for a friend. One is okay. The bubbles on all 3 are kind of smushed.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know. The second round of cults after the first round, which was all in bags and bubble mailers, the second round seemed to all come in boxes. So it seemed like things had been fixed, and then Blitz came in bags again. So absolutely nothing was fixed.
Yeah, I don't think we can bank on that ever being something that's going to be fixed.
Yeah.
No. I only order openers from Walmart and Target these days.
Well, it's just wait 6 to 8 months, and one of the fan channels will pick it up because that's when the exclusivity window closes, and you'll be able to probably get it in better shape. So
absolutely.
Yeah, but that's a tough one, though, because it's like the figures announced, say, 9-10 months before it ships, and then you hear nothing, and then it arrives all messed up in 10 months, and then another 10 months later is when you might have a chance from another retailer to get it in better shape. And once 18 to 20 months have passed, do you really care about that thing anymore? It's hard. So
if you ever cared about it to start with, but
yeah, true enough. I'm good on ARC Troopers, guys. I don't need any more for a while. Thank you.
I would say I do like that Blitz. I think out of the 3 Rancor Battalion, he's probably my favorite. I think the paint apps on him are really nice.
It's pretty unique. Yeah, we don't get a lot of yellow accented figures. Now I'm looking around to see if I'm completely wrong about that, but droids and stuff like that. So it's unique. It's interesting. Kind of as far as these things go.
They can give me all the repaints of the new clone trooper, though.
Yeah. Surprised that they didn't go harder on that out the gate already.
I'm sure they will.
Yeah. Perhaps just knowing with the HasLab and everything going on around it, I do wonder if there is a few things that they've just held back a touch. I know we always push for more and we always want more, but they must have strategized to some degree to say, let's not absolutely pound people with stuff, even though that's kind of happened anyway, because a lot of stuff we ordered God knows how far ago is all coming up at the same time. So
the throne room we ordered in February of 2022. So that was a tough one and a little frustrating. Be like, oh, so it's going to be charging and shipping the same exact time the HasLab's going to charge. Cool. Thanks, guys, for planning that. So
yeah, we got ours about a week into the campaign, I think it was. So yeah, we didn't. It helped in a little way.
Yeah, I saw a lot of comments saying, I have to cancel one or the other because I got to prioritize one or the other, and because both of them aren't something that you're going to be able to just get later. Both of them are, back it now or pre-order now, or you're going to miss out. And
I don't think that's necessarily true with the throne room. I think that's one that
I'm sure
has a chance of coming back. The Ghost will never, ever, 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 ever,
True.
ever, 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 never come back. So
you're saying there's a chance.
Yeah.
I do think that's because sometimes when things go, like when it's about to ship, like the throne room and the Jabba Denizens just went out of stock. But once they actually start shipping, usually more are available and they can do the whole back in stock email and make a thing
I
out of
did
that.
wonder
So
with the throne room, though. I did wonder if one of the reasons it was coming back into stock was where people were canceling it.
Very possible.
Yeah.
You kind of wonder.
or people that have canceled it over the last 18 months of availability or died since it was put up for pre-order.
That got more.
Target and whatever sent out the people have been finding them in stores, and I actually just got a couple from Target of the Remnant speeder bike with the Scout Trooper and Grogu. That's fun. That's nice to have another speeder bike in the arsenal. Not that I needed to spend more money while buying Ghosts, but c'est la vie.
Yeah, I came up for an order pickup at Target, and then they canceled my order a few hours later. I'm like, maybe that was a good thing. But then I ordered it for shipping. So, we'll see what happens.
Oh, Target.
Shadow Scout Trooper next.
Ah,
black
nice.
one. I want a black one.
That'd be nice. I like that. Yeah, give us all the speeder bikes. Maybe not for as expensive, but give us all the speeder bikes, Yeah. All right. Well, hey, speaking of reckless spending and future mail calls, the Ghost. The campaign's done, guys. Successfully ended Wednesday night at 11:59 p.m. and 59 seconds. I'm still not quite sure, and I was there. And the final total after some final additions on Thursday morning, I think ended the Ghost with a final number of 21,768 backers, which was 252.1% of the needed 8,000 backers, and almost 5,000 past the final tier unlock for Zeb. So, congrats, dudes.
Great. It's brilliant.
Well done.
Bravo to the whole community and the brand team on a job well done, as I've said a few times, but it warrants saying it again. You guys all did great. Very successful campaign, and I'm so proud and happy, proud of and happy for the TVC community for putting their money where their mouth is and stepping up to the plate.
Absolutely.
And we'll get into reciprocal expectations later, but there are definitely some expectations.
Yeah. Yeah. It's about the implication.
Yes, 100%.
If we seem a little low energy now, you can go watch our live stream from the other night when we were, as it happened, you can see our reactions. Now I'm just like, oh man, I'm so tired of posting about the Ghost.
Yeah. I think that's the biggest thing is we can all rejoice. No more #GetTheGhost posts for a while after this. Of course, this is our little button on that. This is our epilogue to our efforts over the past 40 some days, and I'm glad this isn't a video medium. I'm glad we don't do a video podcast because who has the energy to make sure?
Yeah.
The funny thing is on Instagram, you kind of get posts on your feed for about sort of the last 2-3 days, don't you? And I'm still seeing stuff now. It's like, come on, we're at 11,000. We can do this. It's kind of like scroll on, old news, move on.
Yeah.
So it'd be nice to get rid of all that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. But speaking of stuff that's old news, John,
Yes.
how does the Ghost HasLab and where it ended up, how does that compare to previous HasLabs?
Well, yeah. So I wrote some numbers down here, and I've said them before, but I think they're worth going through again because we just love vomiting up numbers here on the podcast. So in terms of least successful number of backers to most successful, there have been 5 Star Wars HasLabs so far in the action figure category. So least successful, of course, was the Reva, the Third Sister Force FX lightsaber, which cost $499.99. It got 1,413 backers out of a necessary 5,000.
I was one of them.
You were one of them. Yes, I was not on that one. But they altered the deal by adding stands for the blades, and it failed.
Tears. No
tears, but that was kind of, threw that in later. Failed. So the second most successful, I guess, fourth most successful, second least successful. Yeah. The next Black Series failure was the Rancor. Actually, it was the first failure, but in terms of backers, because it got 8,533, which is nothing to sneeze at, but they did sneeze because it didn't quite get the 9,000 needed to go into production. It was on the cheaper end of the HasLabs, they're in the mid-range, $349.99. They altered the deal. We've gone over the tiers. I'm just talking about the altering of the deal here, how they kind of goose the campaign along. So they added Malakili to the base offering after much outcry, and it's
all
still
new tooling.
Yep, and it still failed. So now we're getting into the good stuff. The first ever HasLab and the first ever success was the Vintage Collection Jabba Sail Barge, the Katana, of course, which was $499.99, same as Reva's lightsaber, same as the Ghost. It got 8,810 backers out of a needed 5,000 to go into production, which actually is only 277 more than the failed Rancor. And they altered the deal halfway through the campaign by adding a carded Power of the Force yak face and coin.
Has it ever been confirmed, that 8,810, did that include the 800 that came over to the UK? Or was that an addition? Does anyone know if that was included?
I'm not sure. Yeah, they might have made more to fulfill.
But I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. It's always a little bit opaque in terms of how they add. We know they had like international backers throughout, and that, of course,
well, it was kind of after, wasn't it? It was sort of at the end of the campaign. So yeah, I'm not sure about that one. But
not sure if they just ran. Yeah, the factory was like, we got to have a 10,000, so they just made 10,000, and then they said, all right, we're gonna have some for giveaways and some for overseas that we weren't able to fulfill. That's
and
totally
extra
speculation
parts
on my
and
point.
Stuff. So
yep. So now the Ghost, the second most successful in terms of backers. It just closed out at, as you said, 21,768 backers with the base backing needed 8,000 backers. I don't know. I'm saying a lot of words. The base offering needed 8,000 backers to go into production. The cost was $499.99, same as the barge, same as Reva's lightsaber. They kind of altered the deal this time by announcing that Sabine and Chopper would be made available as a separate purchase on Hasbro Pulse if it hit 17,000 backers and unlocked all 3 tiers. We'll get into the fact that it was a little too late to add additional tiers because we didn't hit the 2nd or 3rd tier until the last 2 days. But yeah, what?
I just wanted to jump in. I don't know if I would say announcing Sabine and Chopper is kind of altering the deal. It's more so to me of them just being like, listen, we know this is a big ask of money. We are willing to commit to support your purchase with more offerings, and here's proof.
Well, and also you get those people who always say we need the whole lot or there's no point in backing it.
Yeah.
So I think it just
kind of comparing how they add sweeteners either to the campaign or in addition to the campaign during the campaign. So yes, it's a more positive one than please for the love of God back this and we'll give you Malakili to go with it. But in terms of money made, I think this is the highest of all the Star Wars HasLabs. But again, that's so nebulous because we don't know how much it costs to produce. We don't know how much it costs to develop. We don't know any of that stuff. So, run those numbers yourself, folks, if you want to. But the number one most backed HasLab, does that make sense? For Star Wars was the Vintage Collection Razor Crest, still reigning supreme at 28,111 out of a necessary 6,000 backers. And that is 6,343 more than the Ghost. And it cost $349.99, so significantly cheaper than the Ghost and the same as the failed Rancor. And they quote-unquote altered the deal, take issue with that as you will, by adding 3 additional tier unlocks because the first 2 were unlocked so quickly they had time in the campaign to add those additional tiers and get people hyped, which, again, we did not have time for this time because everybody procrastinated. Stop doing that next time. Anyway... So, yes, I have some other info about other successful HasLabs if we want to get into that, or anybody not want to hear my voice for a minute?
I think that's interesting to me that it's such a huge jump. And I know that it's, of course, the barge was the first. So, of course, it's going to have that smaller run. But it's interesting, and I'm sure we'll get into it a little later, that those numbers for those for the Rancor and the barge are fairly similar. And then the Crest and the Ghost also having comparable much higher numbers. I think that's an interesting little bit of information that'd be fun to peel back some layers at and look at some point.
Yes, the 2 Return of the Jedi original trilogy HasLabs only got about 8,500. Just for the record, just saying that. And the new media got over 20,000.
And a $500 item, only getting less than 7,000 backers more, or less than 7,000 backers less than one of the most successful HasLabs to date in general, is pretty good, man. So
yeah, it's a solid number. So a lot of the super successful HasLabs these days are in the 20,000 plus range. And here's a couple recent ones just for comparison's sake. The G.I. Joe Classified Series Dragonfly, which was the most recent one, closed just before the Ghost, got 24,764 backers at a much lower cost of $274.99. The Marvel Legends Sentinel at $349.99 had 21,873 backers, only 105 more than the Ghost. And for a while, that was a record holder right before the Razor Crest beat it a few years ago. The action figure HasLab to sell the most units is still the Marvel Legends Galactus, which had 30,811 backers at a cost of $399.99, so about 2,000-ish more than the Razor Crest. And the HasLab in general to sell the most units, apparently very confused about this one, is the Hero Quest game system, which had two possible options at $99.99 and $149.99. That was listed at 107,992 backers, but that was a launch, I guess, of an item that is still available on Hasbro Pulse, so I have no idea how that's counted, and they just removed that HasLab from the website when they show all the past HasLabs. Maybe accidentally, I don't know. It's very confusing to me, but just throwing that out there. I know we kind of ignore that one when we talk about action figure-based HasLabs. But one more is that the most expensive HasLab ever is Unicron, which was $75 more than the Sail Barge and Ghost at $574.99 back in summer 2019, and that one got a 36-day extension, so it could back, and it still only ended up with 11,272 backers.
How many were required? Was it a 10,000?
No, it was 8,000. 8,000,
okay.
I believe. Let me double check.
And there was no tiers or anything with that one, was there?
Correct. There was no stretch goals, and it was 8,000. So it was pushed to finish the backing window at New York Comic Con in 2019. On August 29th, they announced they were pushing it back to October 6th. And then a companion pack was announced, shortly after. But anyway.
Okay.
So they just some of the interesting ways they keep up the interest levels for these HasLabs. It's been interesting to see.
Well, let's jump in and kind of just talk about a little bit, pulling back a bit, just focusing on the Ghost, though. How do we feel about this campaign and how it was handled, and maybe some things that we did or didn't like about the campaign? I just want to throw out there, obviously, it kind of spoke to the larger issue of LFL and Hasbro, breakdowns in their communication and things that just their coordination leaves a lot to be desired for us as fans and collectors. And it can be really frustrating on the timing of things. But I don't want to get into that too hard right yet. Lewis, let's start with you. Are there some things that you just did or didn't, enjoy about how this campaign was run?
I liked the way that Hasbro dealt with the campaign, actually. I'm sure a lot of us have spoke about this on other live streams and bits anyway. But I mean, I think we criticised the Razor Crest quite a bit for a number of reasons. I think one of the reasons was that they weren't keeping up with the tiers, so it kind of was just dropping off momentum all the time. Okay, with this, they threw them all up front, so that there's a different strategy there anyway. But I felt that putting them all up front did avoid that, people, that no Moolah, no Moolah situation where people are kind of saying, well, where's the crew? If we don't have the crew, what's the point of buying a ship? We know that we don't have Rebels figures, so they needed to show them. I think they needed to put them up. Perhaps a criticism would be, did they need to show them in total? Could they have done like a silhouette, and said Zeb's going to be 17,000, but not actually revealed him, and likewise with Kanan and Ezra, so that it did perhaps keep a bit of momentum. So when that tier was unlocked, they then show the next figure, which kind of may have sparked a bit more interest rather than here's the whole up front. It's like you've shown your whole hand, that's it. So I think if I'm going to criticise, that's the only thing. But I think really they handled it well. And I can't say that I could say that they did it wrong. I think they gave us a painted model, from day one, which looked amazing. They had it there. They had a physical model there. Because again, some of the criticisms with the crest was, it's like a grey lump of plastic. And the Rancor, again, it wasn't painted initially. People didn't like that. So they've learned from some of those things, and I think they handled it well, to be honest.
If I can jump in real quick on the silhouette thing, because they just did that for the Dragonfly, where they put up silhouettes of the figures that were going to be unlocked, and I mean,
they did it for Sabine and Chopper too.
Yeah. But I mean, so but they said it's going to be Sabine and Chopper, so it wasn't like they weren't
right.
They were. It wasn't
fueling
a secret
speculation of who could it be, who's next.
Yeah. So with the Dragonfly, they didn't say it's going to be Joey, G.I. Joe, Action Man, whatever the names are. I don't know. But so it was. It kept people guessing the whole time, and I guess like for the Ghost, if they say it's going to be Ghost Crew and then they show a silhouette, you can probably guess which one is Zeb, which one is Kanan.
They
So-
show a silhouette of Chopper. Who's that Pokemon?
Yeah.
It's Zeb crumpled over.
Did the Dragonfly go through all of those tiers? It did make all the tiers, did it?
It did, yeah. It took a while to. The shape of the campaign was very similar to the Ghost, where it it had a big jump at the beginning and a big jump at the end, but the middle was kind of flat. So like when they revealed the second tier, it was based on some obscure figure from the 80s or something like that. And it didn't really goose a lot of interest, the second tier, after they revealed it. And I think they didn't hit the third tier until near the end of the campaign also.
Right.
That's worth mentioning. The shape of these HasLab campaigns have really, that's a pretty well-oiled machine at this point. It's a pretty safe bet that you can look at the graphs of how these things perform, and it's going to be day one and final
But it shouldn't
day.
be. But it shouldn't be.
Yeah.
Because if everyone backed it day one, everyone who's going to back it, everyone who thinks to themselves, well, I'm going to back this thing, why wait? Because if they did back it day one, that graph wouldn't be, plateauing in the middle. It would be right up there. And, that's the criticism,
I don't want to
isn't
be
it?
committed. And it's like, you're not until
No,
the end.
And that's the criticism of this campaign is not directed at Hasbro. It's the collectors. And I'll let Tyler have a rant about that, because I think that's probably one that he would he'll like to have a go at. But yeah, that's where it went wrong.
Yeah.
I'm sure some people don't know if they're going to have the funds until the very end, et cetera, and that's totally fine. That's totally a worthwhile thing to do. I mean, it's a lot of money to put up all in one go, and it's a big commitment in terms of space and everything. But if you think you're going to if you want to get it, there's no downside to backing early, and there's only because if we had a 20,000 tier, another tier they said at San Diego Comic-Con, just to that point. They said, we're not going to put Sabine and Chopper in the campaign, but if we blow past 17, who knows what else we might have for the campaign. And we didn't blow past 17 till the end, but we blew well past it. So
yeah, we could have had something cool maybe. So yeah. So Tyler?
Well, it would have been really nice to get a flight stand at around the 20K mark. I don't think that, we've seen that was not out of the realm of possibility, because we passed that by almost another 2,000 backers. But the problem is, again, that too many people waited. And so, and I'll get into, that the Hasbro part of this in a moment. But if there's one key takeaway from this campaign and all HasLab campaigns that we're just going to really beat the dead horse over, is backing early is essential, because you are helping the campaign unlock more stuff to make the value of the overall package more bang for your buck. And I don't understand why it's so hard to get that through to people, because you just have people continue to be like, no, I'm not backing until all the tiers are unlocked. And it's like, okay, well, how do you think the tiers get unlocked, dude? By backing. The campaign's not going to make any progress if everybody has that logic.
Yeah.
Not even
lack of logic.
Not even that though. Some people weren't even saying they were waiting for the tiers to be unlocked. Some people were just saying, I'm waiting till the last day. That's just they were just waiting for the last day. And whether they just felt they were sitting on their money, yeah.
And people were trying to argue with us, saying it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. And yes, it does. It literally does.
Yeah, you're literally holding us back and giving us less stuff that we could
get. With the Crest, we, Hasbro they admitted themselves, didn't they? They were on the back foot with tiers, and because we blew through them so quickly, they had to keep up, and they had to find tiers. Yeah, and it proves that they are willing to do that if we do our part, So yeah,
they had to come up with 2 or 3 extra bonus tiers because they were unprepared for how quickly we were blowing through them.
Yeah.
So for anybody who's like, oh, we don't know that. Yes, we do.
Yeah, they told us and we saw it.
They said it. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. It's not an unprecedented scenario. It's happened before. For Star Wars, the Vintage Collection, it's literally happened before.
Yeah.
So these people, you just can't get through to some of these guys, and I think that was one of the most frustrating things of the campaign. But as far as Hasbro goes, I have very little to fault them over. I think overall the campaign, there's not much to complain about, really. I think it was a very well run campaign. And Lewis talked about it earlier. Sort of maybe it wasn't the best call to show all your cards up front. Because when we look at the Razor Crest, they only revealed one tier at a time, and every time that we blew through a tier and they showed us the next one, it caused a surge in new backers. And when you show all your cards up front like that, it helped us blow through the initial minimum backer requirement in 4 days, I think. But then after that, there was really nothing to give it extra juice until the very end. I mean, the only thing that really helped was consistent marketing and advertisements and, photo dumps of the updated paint job and, different pictures
and the videos
of the
for
figures.
And that gave it a boost, actually, when they brought those figures out, and that really did help it.
Yes. So that helped a lot. I will say, kudos to Hasbro on their advertising this time, because it was exponentially better than the Razor Crest. I was actually quite frustrated with the Razor Crest because it seemed like Hasbro was letting the fan community do all their advertising for them. And it was like, where is Hasbro marketing their own product? We're doing that for them. And it was kind of like, and I mean, I get it. The project was doing so well. Maybe they were like, we don't need to, but they should be promoting their own product. So they did much, much better about that this time. So, huge props to that. But, like I said, by showing all your cards up front like that, it's tricky, because in this kind of situation, when you put out a vehicle like that, everyone's going to expect the whole crew. And there's going to be a hesitation to not back unless there's that assurance that the whole crew is part of the package. But
especially when we have nothing from it so far, like zilch, nada, nothing.
So it's kind of like, we'll never really know if that would have caused the project to do better or worse. The campaign, I mean, to do better or worse. But it is food for thought. Maybe you show, the first tier Ezra, and then wait a couple weeks.
Yeah, like who's next?
And then, if you realize that the campaign has kind of stalled out and you need to give it a little oomph, then you reveal the next one. And if it still doesn't work, then okay, show all your cards now. You know what I mean?
That's the Ranker theory, which we saw how all that went, but
Yeah, it's kind of a damned if you do, damned if you don't sort of
thing. But also those tiers were massive. Every time they showed a tier, it lost backers because they're massively disappointing and like
that's
things everybody already had.
The Ghost never went backwards. It was still always moving forwards.
Sure. Maybe by like 2 at a time if you were hearing from certain people.
There were no
Instagram
major net
constantly.
losses daily.
If you were refreshing every 5 seconds like I was, you saw some things, but
I'm not saying they did it wrong. I'm just saying that it's food for thought about approaching this kind of situation in the future.
Yeah.
But I think the biggest thing, and again, we already mentioned this, but it's worth really hammering home, is the timing compared to the Ghost's appearance in the show.
Yes.
I'm tired of the secrecy with Lucasfilm.
It's a killer, man. It's a killer.
I cannot emphasize enough how much something has got to change. This whole, we saw it when you saw it, like, okay, that's not a working strategy. Okay, giving people products from a media source 2 years after you see it is not striking when the iron's hot. That is a losing strategy. It's frankly a dumb strategy. We should be thanking our lucky stars, and Hasbro should be thanking their lucky stars that the Ghost finally made an appearance the day before the campaign closed. And I get it. Like, with San Diego Comic-Con, they wanted to show it in person to everybody, and I'm sure that was tremendously helpful to the campaign. And I don't know what the laws are or the rules are on crowdfunding campaigns. Once you show the project, you have to immediately launch it instead of delaying it a few weeks or to the end of the show or whatever. I'm not sure how all that works. So maybe they had to launch it when they did, and that's just how the cookie crumbled, right? But I would say that maybe in the future, if you're going to do a campaign about a product which is going to be featured in a media source, hopefully prominently, to help sell your product, you should wait until the media source has already come and gone, I think, because this was a really dangerous situation where you're branding something and marketing something as Ahsoka, and it hasn't even been in the media source that you're putting on the packaging. Yeah. Before the campaign closes. Yeah. I mean, that's how close we got. Yeah. 24. Well, so I don't think that's a winning strategy. I think it's got to change. And I think that Hasbro is really doing a disservice to themselves and their profit margins and their ability to sell their products effectively and efficiently and maximize, what they get out of it, but also to their customers. If they are not really pushing for more transparency from Lucasfilm, they are doing a disservice to themselves and to the fans if they are not really emphasizing this is hurting our ability to sell product to our customers who want this stuff now, not in 2 years. They want it to be coordinated when the media comes out. So I can't stress this enough, but it's got to change, and Hasbro has got to start standing up for themselves and talking to Lucasfilm about this, because it's not a working strategy, guys.
That's absolutely, LFL needs to really reassess, because that's my biggest criticism here is yes, Hasbro definitely needs to advocate for themselves and their consumers and push for this stuff. LFL something has to change with how they communicate and coordinate with their licensors. I never, ever, ever want to hear anybody from Hasbro say, oh, we saw it when you saw it, because that is, like you said, Tyler, it's not a winning strategy. To me, that's not how this works. Yeah. It should never happen that way. I get it. I get wanting special surprises and secrets, but this was also exactly why NDAs were invented. And a lot of this stuff, if you know where to look and you really wanted that information, it really has mostly leaked out there in one form or another. Even the best kept secrets, there are corners of the internet that it does leak out on. So
you can literally just Google Star Wars leaks and you'll find a subreddit where everybody collates everything.
People need to be looped in on this information.
Absolutely.
And your licensors are those people. Yes. Okay. The people making the merchandise, which is where all the money comes from all these all these projects, they need to be looped in. It just blows my mind that this is how this works now. It's got to change. I can't say it enough.
No, is the secret worth tanking your product lines or alienating your consumer base or putting your licensors on the back foot for years to come, constantly playing catch up and taking focus away from the new media that you want to be promoting? I don't know.
And again, this is nothing new. We've told them this before. We've told them how frustrating this is. We've told them that we don't like this. Hasbro themselves have been screwed over. When you look at the Rancor campaign,
100%,
right? and the Book of Boba Fett and the Rancor appearing in the Book of Boba Fett, and I think it's pretty evident they had no idea that was going to happen.
But again, though, people were talking about it on the internet beforehand that, it's going to show up, it's going to show up. Now, okay, it might have just been people speculating, but it seemed that was out there. So how did Hasbro not know? Why did someone not say to them, just delay it a couple of weeks?
Someone at Hasbro needs to take one for the team and browse all the leaks, leak subreddits. Hey guys, maybe we should be making a Baby Yoda.
It would have benefited Hasbro tremendously to include it as a tier or something, some kind of conversion kit to turn the Rancor into, Boba's ride. I don't know, a removable saddle or something.
It's like Boba's throne room being double duty for Jabba's throne room and from the new media as well. It is both.
Absolutely.
So
If I can play devil's advocate here real quick. I mean,
no,
the Ghost,
John, you're never allowed to do that.
the Ghost was a success. This was not a
Yes.
huge failure.
Yeah.
So
Not
I
in the
can't,
slightest.
we can't
It was
really
a
use
huge
that
success.
argument in this particular instance that they should have done more. And I do
I just meant
wonder,
it speaks to a larger issue.
I know, but in this instance, so I mean, the Ghost is already well known to Rebels. Like, how much of it was because I've loved Rebels since Rebels was on. I've wanted the Ghosts more than probably any other vehicle since Rebels was on. I've wanted these season 3 and 4 looks for the Rebels characters, more than their other versions since we've never gotten them in any format. So this already appealed to me as a Ghost fan,
Sure.
as a Rebels fan. So
Yeah, same
how
here.
much?
Yeah.
And Steve Evans mentioned on Instagram, he's like, the Ghost probably already has more screen time if you're than any other ship, maybe even the Falcon, because Rebels is a long series. Is the kind of person that knows about a HasLab that is probably inclined to spend $500 on a HasLab. They probably already know what the Ghost is. So how much is an appearance in Ahsoka going to change that? Having said that, I think it could only help if they see it in the show. And knowing that, there's only so much you can do to goose interest in the middle of a HasLab campaign. It's always going to get the most backers at the beginning and the end. And the fact that it actually was timed very well to the ending of the campaign. It showed up. It had its biggest cool moment so far in the show. Maybe it'll have more. It'll probably have a lot more cool moments going forward in Ahsoka, hopefully. And it'll have more moments in, the other seasons of the show or whatever, other seasons that connect to the show and the movie and everything. But as it stands, you want to get people hyped at the beginning and the end of the campaign. And this did exactly that. So 24 hours before the campaign ended, it showed up in Ahsoka and it was awesome and it got everybody excited. And maybe that got more backers. Maybe people that were going to back already knew about it from.
Yeah, it helps as an
I
advert
don't know.
in itself, doesn't it? It's an advert in itself. Didn't they, with one of the G.I. Joes, throw out like a cartoon? Was it His Tank where they threw out a little animated? And again, it's a marketing campaign. And having a show on that's live at the time, to see that thing come up, it's advertising itself.
Yeah.
So it does make sense to try and coincide them. But yeah, as you say, it didn't damage it. Well, at least
it eventually did coincide. It could have definitely coincided earlier. And I agree with everything else you're saying about Lucasfilm needing to be more transparent with and to that point, I think Ahsoka is a sign that is better, at least this time, because there already are, we're missing Baylan and Shin and everything. But the fact that there are so many figures already or on the way coming soon, the fact that Lewis has a Sabine in hand already, even though we won't get her for a while, but those are all good signs that things are improving on that front. So I got to give them a little credit in that regard.
From the fan perspective, though, okay, the appearance was that it was pure dumb luck and thank God, not we timed that perfectly to end 24 hours after the Ghost finally appears.
Well, and it was tough because we had just spent 3 weeks getting to know and love and get familiar with a new large vehicle that I'm already like, oh yeah, I want that T6 shuttle real bad. And that was the main ship of the show until that point. So, but I wrote here too, and I just wanted to mention, with all the things we're saying with these campaigns, to me, I feel that it's kind of obvious that one size doesn't fit all for these campaigns and how they're put together, like in terms of how the tiers are revealed or what the tiers are.
One thing, can I just add, going back to what we were saying about the community? Obviously, we're saying, there's a lot of people out there that didn't help it because they waited. But what I would just say is how grateful I am for the amount of people that did get on and did back it and did push it. Because what we did at least find ourselves in a situation was that we were way past the back in, the initial base back in. We also hit Ezra within a reasonable time period. It would have been nice to get there sooner, but it felt like we were in a much safer position than with the Rancor, where it backslid so badly because people just, as John said, every time they, a tier went up, it went the wrong way. But I think because people kept looking at it at that point, it wasn't backed. And so people were looking at, well, at the moment, I'm not going to get anything for my money, or I'm getting very little for my money. I think the fact that we actually had it locked in helped it a lot. And so, I'm really grateful to all of those people that did have sense and did back it early on and, did help that. So that's good.
Yeah. And if they didn't show everything up front this time, it would have been people saying, "Oh my God, I don't want this without Kanan. You need Kanan. I can't believe they haven't shown Kanan. I can't believe they haven't shown Zeb. Oh my God, what are they so stupid? I can't believe they haven't shown Ezra." So then they have to show them it. No matter what, people are going to have notes. If it's 500, they're going to say it should be 400. If it's 400, they say it should be 300. If there's 4 figures, they say there should be 6. If it's just, I don't know.
And it, it is something that we've asked for as well, just in terms of the main line of the vintage collection is, please, like, let us know that these crews are going to be completed. Like, let us know that we're not just getting a one-off figure and nothing else. Like, we want to have your assurance that you're going to meaningfully cover this stuff. And that's exactly what they did with this. They were like, okay, it comes with 4. And when you get, when those 4 happen, we're going to put the other 2 out. We didn't want to put them out of reach, but they will be insured with the successful campaign. So yes, you'll get that complete crew. You're not going to have to wait 5, 10, 15 years to get the second figure from the team. Like, it's not a Bad Batch situation.
Yep.
So it's like, that's what we've asked for, is like, please, can we get a pipeline of another Bad Batch member? And they're like, haha, no. So,
and they did pipeline or reveal or put up for pre-order several Ahsoka figures that, go with it as well. Like the Ahsoka version of Hera.
Yes.
Obviously there's always more to be done, but it's a good start this time. So I think
it's an excellent start.
But
they did a lot right.
And I know you guys mentioned this, I think, on the live stream you did, where it does actually feel almost like a mini dream pack, a mini figure dream pack kind of HasLab, because let's be honest, I think collectors, as much as, TVC collectors, we love the ships, we love the play shit, the play sets and the creatures and everything. I think most people are figure driven. And, this thing, there's a lot of people that were buying this just for those figures. And I think that, to be able to get those and, like you say, get them as a set and to be able to back it and actually get that new tooling in place, I think that, forgetting the ship for a moment, which is fantastic anyway, but I think it's just great that we can actually do that and get those figures.
Yeah. What do you guys feel about locking those versions of those figures in the set? Because I know some people had issues. I mean, some people have issues with everything, but it's a hard one.
Again, it is a damned if you do, damned if you don't sort of thing, where it's like, you've got people, it's like, I don't need to back this because I'll just get the figures when they repack them later. Or, people that are like, oh, I understand that it's important to put up if we want these figures to help fund this and make it a reality. So it's a fine line, and I don't think it would work for every project. I think it was one that was, obviously it worked here. This is a successful campaign. This is a happy day of success. I know we've just been kind of moaning about stuff, but don't let that distract from the fact that, like, I am elated, dude. The Ghost, we got the Ghost.
Yes.
Like, I'm going to have a Ghost 100%. In my collection and her crew.
I've been in panic mode for 45 days wondering if we would get the whole thing, but feeling pretty confident we would. But now, it's nice to take a breath, even as we're, Monday morning quarterbacking this thing.
Yeah, of course. It's easy for us to jump happy, on that, but yeah, I don't know. I think that, especially John, with, you doing the deep dives on the different looks of the characters, I think with this crew, it really is kind of perfect, where it's like these versions of the characters may or may not be locked here. I mean, they are, as they've stated, but if they, worst case scenario, they reissue figures so that everybody can have Rebels figures. Oh no,
without
the poor
some of
children.
the accessories or something.
And then we all end up with Ghosts still. Oh no.
Yeah. I mean, even if you get the Ezra without the helmet and you get the Kanan without them, one of the heads or something, I wouldn't throw my hands up in horror and say, "Oh my God, you've tricked me!" You made me buy this thing.
I wouldn't.
You ruined my investment. It's like, first and foremost, it's a toy. These are things I want. These are things that I've wanted personally. So
buy it if you want it, not because you think you're going to make money on it in 20 years or whatever.
But all the different variations of these characters too. That, again, all the tooling here has unlocked so many possibilities for many versions of these characters to be made. We've seen it with Ahsoka, the Hera version, or the Ahsoka version of Hera, that kind of stuff. And I mean, regardless of the order of operations there, just the fact that these things can exist now. And there's things that they could take from these figures to make more than just these characters, probably in some form or another, with some creative reuse to make things that maybe like another OT backgrounder. I don't know. So
I think, again, I kind of have to criticize some people were saying, these shouldn't be locked behind a $500 paywall. They should have just been released in the main line. And it's like, well, yeah, dude, sure. Like, they've been on the bracket multiple times. People have been asking for Rebels for forever and ever. But guess what? It obviously was not happening because they've got too much media that they need to cover and not enough tooling budget. So, it's like, clearly we had to put up the money up front to get these made. And I saw other comments like, oh, for $500, these should have just been included in the base price. It's like,
I mean, they are if enough people back. It doesn't change the price.
Yeah.
Are we forgetting that the Millennium Falcon Smuggler's Run version just came out, a few years ago for $400, and that was a repack of already existing tooling, and now you're getting a newly tooled vehicle,
And Falcon had repacked figures.
Yeah, much more detailed. Sure, it's lacking any electronics, but much more detailed for only $100 more, plus the figures if you unlock them all. So and again, newly tooled figures from the ground up and accessories. So,
sorry, question. So this was heavily rumored to be $600 initially.
Right.
Yeah.
We know that Chopper and Sabine are there in the background. Does anyone wonder if they were originally part of it, but it was $600 because they were trying to give us those extra figures in that pack as well? Is that, or am I just conspiracy theory?
It's very possible.
Any conspiracy theory is possible here.
This is something else that I actually wanted to speak to though, and forgot about it, and that's that. Yes, it was heavily rumored to be $600, and it ended up launching for $500. And I think that was a very, very wise decision on Hasbro's part. I'm not sure I necessarily agree with some people saying that there's this psychological wall where, it can't be any higher than $500 or it's just not going to work no matter what the project is.
Well, people moaned about 500. Yeah, people moaned about 350 with a crest. I mean, people moan about any price.
I don't really agree with that. So let me just say that up front.
Yeah.
However, I think that it was a good strategy because, clearly, seemingly what they did was they dialed back the price by $100 and they dialed up, seemingly, the minimum number of backers that was required for the base offering. And I think that was a good strategy. You make it more affordable because that $100 can make the difference for some people. Maybe a lot of people. I don't know. That could have been make or break for a substantial amount of people. We'll never know. But I think that was a winning strategy. Because I keep seeing people saying, oh, I wish this was more affordable. And, my counter argument is like, that's not really the point of HasLabs. They're not supposed to be affordable. This is supposed to be a magnificent dream item that could never be offered at retail and it's never going to happen again. And it's big and it's extravagant. Maybe not big, but it's definitely going to be expensive. Okay. Being affordable is not really the point of HasLabs. However, making them slightly more affordable and just increasing the minimum backer number is clearly a winning strategy because, again, the Ghost was tremendously successful. So I think that is the way going forward.
If they lowered the price to remove electronics or something, which I know people had talked about, and it was interesting hearing Chris talk about that in one of the many interviews they gave over this campaign. But it was lights and sounds are a moment. He said something like that. Like you kind of play with it for a minute, you put it on your shelf, you kind of forget about them. I do as cool as the Millennium Falcon electronics are. I haven't used them in 10 plus years or whatever.
It's pretty true.
I think apparently they took the Nerf gun off it as well to save us 50 quid.
The only value I see in electronics or LED lights is for figure photographers. If you have illuminated lights on the bottom of the ship that point downwards towards, the landing craft or whatever, or you have a light inside the cockpit to light up the figures, that's pretty cool for figure photographers and whatnot. But at the same time, you can just edit that stuff in. The talented people out there can just edit that stuff in. So, I mean, is it really necessary? And it clearly adds a lot to the cost.
Yeah, and some customizers added cool electronics like the Razor Crest. So I'm sure we'll see it again here with the Ghost whenever it shows up.
The throne room, I mean, they've put some really nice slats into the top of it. You can put your own light above it. You can cast some lovely shadows over it when you're doing your toy photography. It doesn't need inbuilt lighting. It just needs some clever design.
Yeah.
Right.
John, I just want to piggyback you mentioning something, that Chris from the team had said about that. The fact that going back to praise Hasbro on this one, not in like a slavish, like, yes, Hasbro, we love you, shills, but like, genuinely a thing I really loved about how this campaign was run was not only just like the marketing, of course, Tyler, as you mentioned, but how engaged individual members of the Hasbro brand team were throughout the entire thing via social media. The fact that they did not just the round of Q&As at San Diego Comic-Con, they did another round during the campaign. Not that I think they had a couple new things to talk about, but they did a ghost focused Q&A round during the middle to get more information out there to further clarify things. And them being ear to the ground. Yeah. Yep. And being, ears to the ground, listening, paying attention. And again, too, like even Emily after the campaign ended, like, yep, Sabine and Chopper are coming. And then she tags on, don't worry, it'll have a swappable helmet, where, that was happening too. Like there was multiple discussions going on about things, not just about the ghost, but about things for the line as well that we'd kind of like to see, or issues that were arising. And a lot of things were addressed almost instantly. A lot of things were put out there instantly for them to be able to kind of, I wouldn't say course correct, but just to show that they're involved, to show that they are paying attention to what we're all kind of chattering about.
There are a lot of questions they answered, didn't they?
Yeah.
Not that people always listened. How many times they said the same thing over and over and over, and people still asking the same questions. But they did all they could, I think.
Yeah.
One thing, if I can give a note, they did great, but I will say that the exclusivity of the figures was something I wish they were a little more clear on, because that was a continued source of confusion for a lot of people. And I went through and did all those posts about the different costumes to say, okay, it wasn't just that Ezra and Kanan got haircuts in season 3. It was that everybody got new costumes.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the difference. And they are very similar, so I don't fault anyone for not, studying that super closely. But I wish that they had been a little more clear. And then even in the Q&As, there was a lot of like not super direct, clear communication about the figures being exclusive. It wasn't that the characters were exclusive. And we had to do a lot of the lifting on that topic, I felt like. And that was a frustration that I had personally, because we had to do a lot of that stuff.
And again, another thing that we had to constantly hammer home, kind of on behalf of Hasbro, was you don't get charged until the end of the campaign. You don't get charged when you hit the back button. It's like HasLab as a model has existed for over 5 years now, and there's still people that don't understand that. So obviously, Hasbro, if you're listening, you need to hammer that home just a little bit harder.
I would say
that one's
don't
right.
Get it.
It's right there all over the place.
First thing you see on the page for people, so that's really on them.
People don't read.
I know.
We know this. We know.
I would say I saw a lot of people this year saying this is my first HasLab. It's the first time I've had a chance to follow one, back one. So there are a lot of people that are still new to this, and obviously this is the first year that Pulse EU has had the opportunity to back one, because they weren't, and even when we backed the Razor Crest over here, we had to buy it through Zavi, so we were able to back, and so obviously Hasbro Asia as well now, so they opened it up to a lot more this time around. So I'm sure for a lot of people it was early, it was a new thing for them, and perhaps that didn't help. But again, like you say, how many times can you say it to someone before they'll actually, it goes in? But yeah.
Real quick, just with all of the stuff that we were saying and all of the posts that, we were putting out, and the encouragement that we were putting out there, and the discussions that we were trying to foster, and the ones that we were trying to put out there, no point of it was to tell someone what to do with their money. I know that was a common criticism. That was not our intent in the slightest. It literally, everything was designed for the campaign about if you are interested, or if you even think you are interested, here is all the information that you may need in order to make a decision on if this is right for you, or if this is something you want to do, or, why this would be something to do if you're on, if you think you want it, here's maybe some more encouragement, not you need to spend $500. I would never tell someone to just go, yeah, go buy a toy for $500. No. But if you think you want it, or if you thought you wanted it, even when we were doing the whole thing way before this of, hey, there's an expensive HasLab probably coming. If you're interested, it might be smart to start saving now. If you want to, that's not you need to save so you can buy. It was, if you're following us, you probably are interested in a HasLab for the vintage collection.
Yeah. I just want to make it clear, at no point were we shaming people for not backing this. Okay. Yeah. At no point were we like, you're not a true fan or you're not a true collector if you're not backing this. What we did say, and we will 100% admit to saying, is that if you are intending to purchase this item, then there is no sense waiting to back. Mm-hmm. I will absolutely admit that. I said that probably 1,000 times in this 47 days. I will freely admit that. But that is completely different than shaming people into spending $500. I'm sorry, that's not the same thing.
There's no shame in that. I totally get that. I barely got the barge, and I only got it because my cousin extended a line of credit my way to help me get it. The crest came at a time where, I know there was more people with disposable income, blah, blah, blah. But I had lost my job and my company at that time. So I had to struggle to make that work. And I wasn't sure I was going to be able to get it. There's no shame in either not wanting it or, not being interested or just not being able to swing it right now. I don't want anyone to feel shame for that because that's just life, man. That's fine. We're not going to want everything from this collection. I mean, unless you're a completest or whatever.
I do.
I do. I want it all, but that we're not
that's
everybody.
My sickness.
That's our little cross to bear. Yeah. I hope nobody felt shamed of it. I think the only people who should feel shame are the ones that didn't want it or didn't have interest and then made it their mission to spread misery and misinformation and to try to, harm enthusiasm and to try to muddy the waters. I think that's the kind of stuff that I took issue with. The ones that said,
oh, this will never get funded or, oh, we'll never make it to ZAD because there's not enough interest. Well, eat crow. You have egg on your face.
So,
I will say
sorry for hopping on a little pedestal there and being sanctimonious and stuff, but I just wanted to get that out there. I know that's been a common thing. It was not about telling people what to do with their money, and it was not about making anybody feel shame.
Right.
Sorry, Lewis, were you going to say something?
No, I was just going to say, I mean, I do, the one, thing I do feel, I feel people's pain is the people who can't back it, and not necessarily just because of financial reasons, but the people, a lot of people in Mexico, we saw a lot of people saying, we just cannot back it from here. There's nowhere for us to get it from. And I'm sure that applies, obviously Australia, New Zealand, I think they did have the companies they could get it through in the end. But I think that there's still people out there that can't get these Hasbro exclusives, whether it's a HasLab or even just the Army Builder packs. There's people that can't get them. And as someone, in the UK, when we've had times when we couldn't get things and when we just, we struggled and we had to either import them or tough luck. So I feel that pain for people. And I know that, that exclusivity, it has that darker side to it. I mean, you've got to give something as an exclusive to make this thing desirable, and unfortunately, that comes as part and parcel with a HasLab. Sorry, but obviously, it does have that unfortunate side to it that there are some people that are just going to struggle when it's when it's limited in that way.
I will say to that point, I remember there was, I think in the 90s or something, there was in the Star Trek Playmates line, they had an exclusive set of figures that was only like.
I think it was like a Picard. There was a special Picard figure.
But it was, you'll know, isn't the Enterprise like 1401 or something? But
1701.
1701. So they only made 1,701 versions or, figures or sets. Only 1,700 people can get that set or something. So that was that's really too low. That's the kind of thing that kills completism or that kills collections for people. So I think they got to be careful with that.
Yeah.
So if they totally lock some of these things that people want behind walls and make it difficult for people to get. I appreciate that more people were able to back it this time, around the world than previous campaigns. And one thing I wanted to say that in terms of a lot all at once, I was really glad to see that currently they're only running one HasLab at a time because when they did the Rancor, they also had the Ghostbusters Proton Pack and the G.I. Joe Sky Striker all at the same time, all closing within about a week of each other. And that was just way too much, because I know not everybody does multiple lines, but a lot of collectors do.
Mhm.
And so then you're forcing them to pick and choose. I'm only ever interested in Star Wars for the most part. So I'm only going to go for those, but a lot of people are not. That maybe they wanted a Ghostbuster proton pack for 40 years.
I remember people saying that I'm not going to bother back in the Rancor now that Sky Striker's been revealed.
Yep.
People were saying I'm putting my money elsewhere. I saw it a lot.
Yeah, I saw that with even the proton pack, people wanting that instead.
Yeah.
So
it was nice that the Dragonfly closed, and then they did the Ghost, and that closed, and now they're doing the Marvel Giant Man. So I think that's a really smart lesson learned from them.
Yeah.
I just want to mention too, it's easy for us to also dunk on the Rancor for being, that was just a mess. It was hard. It was hard to watch. It was unpleasant and sad. But at the same time too, I also want to put it out there where while it was not something for me, there was a point, because I was still toe in the water with Black Series at that time. And I thought, oh man, I felt the FOMO on that. I thought about backing it on that last day as it was getting closer to actually being a reality. But ultimately too, where it's like, sure, we can talk about the merits of scales, blah, blah, blah. Ultimately, though, it does not bring me joy when any collector sees a door closed on something they want. So I don't want to gloat about, like, there's people out there that wanted that Rancor. I don't want to say, ha ha, you can't have what you want. Because that's poor sportsmanship. And two, that's not the spirit of collecting. I want us all to be able to have a fair shot at what we want. So,
yeah.
But on the back of that, I would say, we've seen people asking, should it come back? Should they have a second bite?
Oh, absolutely not.
I personally feel that no HasLab, failed or succeeded, should produce, that same item again, because it would just undermine the whole HasLab process. I mean, the whole point of this thing is to get people to back. If people know that further down the line there's a second opportunity for it to happen, then it will just kill it even more so than the whole, trying to barter for extra tiers and that side of things. So, no, it's gone. It's dead. Leave it. Unfortunately, like you say, unfortunately for those people that did want it, but try next time.
Let the past die.
Kill it if you have to.
Tyler, I know you've mentioned how often you want to see HasLabs, and that's maybe something worth just mentioning here real quick. You've said you want them as often as possible, yeah?
Well, I don't know as often as possible, but I think that it would be reasonable to do one per year. I have received some flack about that. I would say no more than every 2 years. Because then it just becomes, okay, we've seen something in new media, or we've been asking for something from old media, and we're just waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting. And then you have to, and that doesn't account for production time and the time that it takes to actually ship it out to you. So now it becomes 4 years since you've, received a HasLab in hand. And that's just ridiculous. So, and I also think that, even though there are some collectors that collect both the Black Series and the Vintage Collection, if they're going 4 years between both lines because they think that they need to alternate between Black Series and Vintage Collection and do them every other year or something like that, I don't want that. Okay, they're their own thing as far as I'm concerned. I don't want to wait 3 or 4 years for a HasLab. So you need to be pumping them out at a minimum every 2 years, I think.
I don't think that's
launching a new campaign. I mean, every 2 years.
If they launched a campaign 2 years from right now, it would ship around the time a certain anniversary is happening. So,
right.
Personally, though, I wouldn't want to see a campaign launch really before we've received, the last one. Because if we're all still sitting here in 12 months time, 15 months time, and we still haven't got that Ghost, then and Hasbro is sort of saying, right, here's the next one. I can imagine there'd be a lot of backlash from people saying, well, you want us to back another one? We haven't even got this yet. I think there's always they need to try and balance that anyway. So I think
I agree with that.
2 years I think would work well.
Yeah.
I definitely agree.
And I think there is sensitivity around the number of pre-orders and the number of long waits we have for items, and stuff like the throne room, which has been an 18-month wait since since it went up, like you said. And I'd like to see if depending on how often they do HasLabs, I would like to see more of those big throne room type pulse items in between. Maybe not as big as a full HasLab, something like Not that we need to go down a whole rabbit hole of wish lists, but like Bo-Katan's Gauntlet or something would be good in that format, I think. Yeah, so I'd like to see those in between, maybe one or two in between each HasLab would be nice, but yeah.
Yeah. Or figure dream packs.
Yeah, well, I mean,
Yeah.
that would overcome some of the criticisms that people have, again, with the Ghost was, I haven't got space. You know, there's people out there saying, I've got a barge, I've got a Razor Crest, I've got nowhere to put a Ghost. And the thing is, again, is if every time we have a HasLab, it's one of these massive, items, then us sitting around here, we're always going to buy them. But you are going to get people out there that are going to say, I just got nowhere to put the thing. I just don't know where to put it. I've got nowhere to display it. And I think it wouldn't hurt to have some where you've got some, figure dream packs in between, split them up so that you are addressing that size issue as well. But
yeah.
We always want more. We'll take them all.
Yeah.
Everything. I will.
Well, we don't need to unpack the whole OT versus new media sort of thing. That can be a discussion for another day. We've been going on for quite a while right now. But just real quick though, what are some things that you guys would like to see potentially as a future HasLab? John, you've got a little note here.
Well, yeah, sorry, Tyler, but just to get ahead of it, in the Imperial Communiques San Diego Comic-Con Q&A with Chris Reif, he brought up, Anthony from the Imperial Communique, brought up an Imperial shuttle. And Chris said, quote, it's out there. It's a thing that exists already. I didn't pull the full quote, but it was something like we wanted to focus on something that we haven't done before. That's personally, speaking only for myself, that's also where I'm at with these things. Like I've said it before. I know a lot of people talk about a Sandcrawler. They talk about an Imperial shuttle. I am not among that chorus necessarily because I have versions. They're not perfect. They're not amazing, but they work for what I need them to do. So I would personally prefer new things coming to the line instead of updates that things already have. And I will say, I think that might have been one of the many contributing factors against the success of the Rancor. I remember people saying, this already exists. I have a smaller version of this, a less articulated, less detailed version of this, but I already have it. I have a Rancor in my collection. I don't really need to foot the bill for another one. And I worry that it would come up against the same kind of issue with a very expensive update to something we already have, even if it's 40, 50 years old, but that's my piece on that. So yeah.
Tyler, I know you have thoughts.
Oh yeah, I got thoughts. So first of all, let me say that the next HasLab should be already decided by the community, and that's the Death Star, because there has been multiple polls conducted in the community over the past couple of years. And the results have been the same no matter who's hosting the poll, what platform it's on, the results have shaken out to be exactly the same. The number one thing that people wanted was the Ghost. Okay, they've checked that box. Good on them. Now, not far behind that was the Death Star. So if they want a successful HasLab project, then they should make what people are telling them they want. And that is the Death Star. People want it, make it. It's literally that simple. Let us give you our money for the thing that we want, not the thing that you try to push on us and assume that we want, because those projects don't work, as we have seen with Reva's lightsaber. So, and that leads me to the secondary point about, things that already exist. I don't think that's relevant at all, honestly. If they do not want to have any more miserable failures like the Rancor and Reva's lightsaber, then they need to listen to the community and make what the community wants. And they have said that they encourage more polling to help them determine what it is that we want, so that the communication is better, so that they make things that will be successful and make us happy and make them happy with their profits that obviously they're trying to make as a company. Right? So if it's something that already exists, okay. I mean, it's risen to the top. And I will say, as far as the Imperial shuttle goes, that's not risen to the top. It is one of the top contenders, but there are other things that have polled higher than that. So I think that those things that have polled higher or better than that should be tackled first. But if, once those other things that are, seemingly more desired by the community have been checked off. If for example the Sandcrawler or the Imperial Shuttle continues to rise to the top, to be that top contender in polls, then they should make that. I think it's completely irrelevant if a version already exists out there. If people are saying, no, that version's not good enough, I want a definitive one that's of 2023, 2024, 2027, whatever it is, TVC standards, then that's what they want, and that's what Hasbro should make.
Can I ask you guys, who here is excited for a new Sandcrawler? I am not.
I know I'd back it, but am I crying out for one though?
I'd back it, but it's also one of those things like I know I should probably get a colonoscopy and pay for that, but like I'm not excited for it, but I got to do it.
And you know what? And I'm not going to say that I'm particular. I'll be completely honest with you. The Ghost was not even in my top 5, maybe not even my top 10 items of things that I would want for HasLab. But
shame on you.
But that being said, I campaigned for it and supported it as if it was my number one thing. And to be completely honest with you, it has grown on me very much, having rewatched Rebels, and seeing it in live action has increased that love even a little bit more. And now I'm actually quite excited for it, and I can't wait to have it in my collection. And I think it's going to make a great piece in my Rebels or my Rebel Alliance area next to the Falcon. I'm very excited for it. But I don't think my opinion or your opinion or anybody else's individual opinion really matters. Again, I think that it comes down to community consensus and polling, because that's the best indicator of success in my mind.
I don't think it was like hey, if it already exists, it's totally out of the question. It was the priority is things that have never been done before.
Technically, we've already got a Death Star.
Yeah.
Well, sure, but here's the thing. Let's say they're like, oh, we're gonna put out this thing that's never been made before, and we've decided, as Hasbro and Lucasfilm or whatever, that this is the thing that we're gonna make the HasLab. Well, what if it fails? And that's not necessarily what the fans wanted. Okay, it's something that's never been done before, but if it's not something the community wants, that does not guarantee success by any means.
I agree that I think it doesn't. I think it helps if it's something that hasn't been done before. Same as I always say with figures, I want to see something new. I always want to see new figures, new stuff that's never been, and that's why Ghost for me was number one on my list anyway, because we hadn't had it, we needed it, we wanted it. But equally, did I need another Darth Vader in my life? Well, since those two have come out in TVC, I would say 100% I did. So it shows that things can be redone and redone to an absolute top quality, and therefore it is worth doing. So
yes,
it depends how you look at it. We know whatever it will be absolute top quality. So even if it was a Sandcrawler, it would be so superior to the Disney one. I think it would be a whole nother level. But yeah, I kind of agree. For me, I don't know. I'll back whatever they want to throw out if it's got that quality to it, and I'm here for anything.
Yeah,
just give me something.
But not everybody's like that.
Well, and when I say I'm not 100% opposed to it. It just doesn't get my motor going the way something like the Ghost did. Personally, personally speaking, I'm sure a new Imperial Shuttle and a new Sandcrawler would be amazing, but personally, that's not my top choice.
Presumably, though, a shuttle could be like the throne room, couldn't it? It's not quite big enough to be a HasLab. It could be one of those things that they put in a high price item as an exclusive.
Yeah. And some of these things like if something's going to fail, it should fail as a HasLab before anybody spends money on it. That's kind of the point of the thing. So if they're going to test out stuff that may or may not work, this is the lab for that. And obviously we've seen what succeeds and what doesn't. So I know we don't want to go down again the wish list rabbit hole for too much longer, but so far the successful Star Wars ones have all been big vehicles. I would like them to see other things that exist, figure dream packs, smaller things, play sets, things like that. That don't, because some of the things like the Sandcrawler only come up when people are thinking of it has to be a giant vehicle. What are the other giant vehicles in Star Wars? Sandcrawler. Okay, great.
Because
fine,
others are too big. You don't go, Star Destroyers are too big, so it's got to be something that's in that that in between.
I think the Mandalorian Gauntlet would be a good choice, but
absolutely. And I think that could, either as a HasLab or as a Pulse thing, I really want, that's kind of my next top want as a vehicle.
Sure.
And that's what we don't know. I mean, again, Tyler, you're saying that at the moment the community are pushing towards that Death Star because that seemed to be the most popular. But if we're talking about another HasLab now in 2 years, then what could we see between now and then in new media where people would actually say, do you know what, it hasn't got to be OT. It could be this new thing that everyone's falling in love with, like the Razor Crest was. We just don't know what's around the corner, do we?
I understand what you're saying, and I completely agree with you. And it's tricky because we just got through telling them to strike while the iron's hot, right? However, we saw a lot of comments from the OT collectors saying, should have been OT. Like, I'm not going to buy it because it's not OT. So, we've had 2 new media HasLab products, I think, or projects rather. I think that it's the appropriate time to pivot back to the original trilogy and throw them a bone, especially in light of the fact that A New Hope 50th anniversary is coming up. I just think it's the right time to go back to the original
timing
trilogy.
Is the important thing. Yeah, it is, because the new media or OT anniversary of A New Hope, yes, that's something to think about.
You've got Andor season 2 coming out, and the Death Star may very well be featured in that. It's rumored that Krennic might make an appearance again, and where Krennic is, the Death Star tends to follow, right? So again, that could further fuel that as a project.
Yeah.
But
however, I can't let your phrasing "throw the OT fans a bone" go without mentioning the Rancor yet again. So last time they tried that, we know exactly how that went. I saw your eyes light up, Lewis. I'm sorry I got there first.
Low blow.
So again, the 2 original trilogy HasLabs, whatever other factors they were, they came out. They got about 8.5 to less than 9,000 backers. The new media ones got over 20,000. Just saying, throwing that out there, not saying they couldn't have done a better job on the OT. But the facts are the facts. The numbers are the numbers. Let's not forget that. But when the OT crowd says only OT is ever going to be successful.
It's make what makes sense via timing or what's out there and what people are asking for. These are all factors. And that does not mean it has to be new media. That does not mean that it has to be OT. No one thing is entitled to it.
I agree.
I think a Death Star for the 50th anniversary is 100% a great idea.
That makes sense. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you, John. But I also think that if the barge, as we've discussed ad nauseum, the barge was the first campaign. People didn't understand how it worked. I think it would have
people still don't understand how they work.
Yeah. I think in fairness, it would probably perform a lot better today than it did, 5 years ago. But we'll never know. So
if ifs and buts were candies and nuts, we'd all have a Merry Christmas. So. Got to throw.
Anyway, let's move on.
Yes.
Well, ultimately, just one thing I want to say here, that the success of a TVC HasLab is good for the line. It's good for everyone who collects it. It is good for the health of the line. It sends a further message to Hasbro that it is worth investing in these folks that show up, that put up, that buy these things that are exciting, that, we're always asking for more. So
if I may, I'm going to jump in now with what I alluded to earlier, just real quick. Everybody in the community is talking about this, so I'm far from the first person to mention it, but it has to be said that the vintage collection is now 3 for 3 on HasLabs.
It has to be said, because I said it 2 hours ago at the beginning of this episode.
Right, but it bears repeating. Like, we have demonstrated
time and again
that we are willing to put the money up. We are a hungry community that wants to be fed. Okay. I can't stress this enough to Hasbro. It is time to reciprocate and put more into the budget for more new tooling. I don't know how many times we have to, blow a HasLab project out of the water like this to send the message. I mean, how many times does the message have to be sent? Give the TVC budget more money, more new tooling.
And not just HasLabs, because Chris said the N1 had done very well, didn't he? I think he mentioned that somewhere.
And a few of the new figures also sold out as well. Yeah. Thrawn and Revan.
And what do I say at the beginning of each and every one of these podcasts? We are here for the continued existence, expansion, and success.
Yes.
So
we have demonstrated again that the line is worthy of expansion. So, we have given you our money, and now the expectation and indeed the demand of the community is that Hasbro reciprocates by giving us an increased budget and more new tooling. It has to be said. It just has to be said.
To piggyback that with where I was going initially with, the success being good for everything, you look at things like Velkin Taziri. Is that something that would be even a priority if we didn't have the sail barge and a huge expansive beat with that? Maybe. Who can say? We don't know. We don't live in that timeline. We have the barge. So the thing is, though, is that these HasLabs have effects on the line. We get more to support them. John, you did the breakdowns of the stuff that we've gotten to support the barge, to support the Razor Crest. And now we've seen already a pretty honest go of it for supporting the Ghost. So this is all very good. I appreciate. And so whatever they do for these things, you can bet that there will be a bit of a shift in focus or an additional focus to build out these large purchases.
I need my deluxe puffer pig ASAP, please and thank you.
I want my Agent Callus and Governor Price yesterday.
Oh, yep. So, let's wind down a little bit. I just want to shout out, we've mentioned the community a few times, but I just want to shout out to the community at large. Overall, congrats. This was a hard fought thing. We showed up. We did it. Congrats, community. We've got another awesome Grail piece in our collections. Also, thanks again to all of our friends and peers out there in the community. Like I was just on Victoria's stream last night. We've had folks on our live stream. So, we've got John Miko and Augustine from the SW, the Vintage Collection Facebook group, Yak Face, Bosk's Bounty, Bantha Skull, Victoria's Cantina, Toys Are the Way, wild folks like Blue Harvest Collector. We've got Bread on Fett, Rise Junctionite, even Mr. Stevie out there getting on the ground. Just lots of folks out there getting their hands dirty to be in the thick of it, coming together, unifying around something. And it's very cool to see this community achieve great things together because, as I've said, collectors together, strong.
And I'd just like to add, if we didn't mention your name, it doesn't mean that we don't appreciate your efforts, and it doesn't mean that we didn't see you campaigning out there. There was a lot of people, dozens of people, maybe even more than dozens of people that were campaigning. We've just got lots of
notes to pay attention to. It's hard to
forgive us if we didn't mention your name, but I guarantee you we saw your name or your profile out there championing this project, this campaign, just the same as we were, and we appreciate every single one of you because you are all supporting the overall cause, and you deserve praise. So thank you.
Yeah, people out there commenting on every single thing, not necessarily posting themselves, but you could see people out there, really supporting it.
Yep.
Yeah.
The memes, wonderful. Lots of fun, lots of good laughs, lots of good fun with everybody. Any final thoughts from you guys, or we should probably wrap this up?
I'm tired. I'm hungry. Ready for the Ghost.
Same. Lewis?
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad to draw a line under this campaign, and it's been fun, it's been tiring, it's been exhausting, but ultimately it's been great, and I really can't wait till that thing shows up in whenever it is, end of next year.
Yeah, Tyler.
I'm just gonna wrap this up by saying that it's very satisfying to see this be a tremendous success when all those people were doubting and criticizing and hoping for its failure, and I'm really glad to see that this just shut down all of those people.
I can't wait for Yak Face's book of all the comments.
People, have said that they've wanted the Rebels figures for years and years and years and years, and when the Ghost was announced, we were like, man, I hope that people it's time to put up or shut up. It's time for people to put their money where their mouths are, or where their mouth is. And they did. So kudos to the TVC community, and I hope that next time when people say that they want something, it's taken more seriously. So congratulations, everyone.
Yes, indeed. Happy beeps. Again, happy beeps, guys. Despite any of the complaints that you've heard over the past couple hours from us, it's not about this item or this campaign. Usually it's just kind of speaking to larger issues that may or may not persist with just
giving notes, just thinking about how it could have gone.
That's
it went great. Yes.
Yeah, it was great. It was a smashing success. We've got 3 feathers in the cap of success for the Vintage Collection HasLabs. It's awesome. So you've heard our thoughts about that. If for some reason after listening to this episode, you want to hear us talk about it more, be sure to check out our YouTube channel. We are at SWTVC on YouTube. We've got some live streams that you can tune into this. We've got a couple podcast episodes that we did before. If you haven't listened to those already, give those a listen if you want more thoughts. I was on Victoria's stream, as I've mentioned already, just last night. So if you want that, go find her at Victoria's Cantina on YouTube as well as Instagram. So Victoria also has the Vintage Collection podcast, not to be confused with the SWTVC podcast. It is coming back for its final season this coming Monday, which will have been a couple days ago at the time of you listening to this. So be sure to check that out. Yes, we will also have more thoughts from us on Instagram at SWTVC, where we put all of our goodies and whatnot. So there will be a text version of this. We will have not this whole podcast. Good God, we're not writing a book, but there will be a bit of a retrospective post over there. Peep our calendar over there to just kind of see what we've got on the docket. I know there's some looking ahead and looking back for March Madness coming up. So stay tuned for all of that fun stuff. Also, just be sure that if you are not already, just subscribe to us on YouTube, follow us on Instagram, rate and review the podcast if you like what we do here. It means a lot, makes a difference, helps us boost the good words of TVC. Guys, Tyler, John, Lewis, thank you so much for getting together and some of you sacrificing valuable sleep to do this. I really appreciate it. This has been a ton of fun, starting SWTVC around the time of the Razor Crest, and then 3 years later, getting to do another HasLab again and drive ourselves nuts for another one has been an absolute pleasure. I love you guys. I am grateful to be here and that we get to do this together and with this community. That's my piece. Let's wrap this up. As always, keep 375 alive, Hu Yang Gang for life, Waylon for Balin, whatever the weird Shin hashtag was. Got the ghost, and may the force be with you.